Greetings, everybody. My name is Desiree Dorion, and I am your host for the CCMA Achimotak Conversation Series in honor and celebration of Indigenous History Month. Achimotak is Swampy Cree for Let's Talk About It Together. Today's guest is my friend, Indigenous Music Award winner, MCMA, Manitoba Country Music Association Emerging Artist of the Year. Her latest song, Hangover Blues, has over 100,000 streams. She is a powerhouse vocalist, a stellar songwriter. She's my Muskegowee Nissim, my Swampy Cree sister, Jade Turner.
Hello.
How are you? I'm brushing up on my Cree.
It sounds so weird hearing things about yourself. It's so funny.
You know as well as I do, Jade, that the very first question we ask each other in Indigenous country is, where are you from?
Yes.
So let's start there.
I am from Mississippi Cree Nation, which is on Treaty 5 territory. And yeah, it's like on the banks of Lake Winnipeg. It's an absolutely gorgeous place, but I did not grow up there. I grew up everywhere. All
Where
over
did you grow
northern
up?
Manitoba.
Tell us about that.
Okay. I've actually moved about, I want to say 17 to 18 times by the time I was in high school. Probably about there.
17 or 18 times.
Yes, I
Why?
moved a lot. My mom was a nurse, and she's was always very. She always wanted to work for her people, and so she went to all the northern communities, and she did, a year here, a year there, and then sometimes the places didn't work out for me, so I would move with my dad for a while, and then I'd be back with my mom for a while. My mom and dad separated when I was before my mom got to nursing school, so I must have been in grade 1. And my dad stayed mostly in Grand Rapids. We lived in Thompson together. I lived with him in the Paw, and then I was like back and forth with my mom until about high school. Then high school, I was with my dad pretty much since then.
So you go back and forth from living in whatever First Nation community your mom was working back to Grand to live with your dad. What was it like growing up in First Nation communities?
It was pretty hard. One, because a lot of the communities that I've lived in were very, very poor. They were very secluded. Some of them were fly-in communities and they didn't have a lot of things. And then, up comes this girl who is there with a mom that's a nurse, which you didn't see very often in those communities. All the nurses were mostly Caucasians. And so, coming up there and then us having running water, like the nursing places having running water, and their places did not. And it was a lot of bullying, but it was like, I look back on it now and I totally understand it. But at that time, being so young, I didn't understand. I was called so many names and picked on a lot. And that's actually how I started writing my music, was through going. I talk about this and it sounds horrible now that I think back. And I talked about it with my mom recently too. And she said when she found out, she just bawled her face off and it was really hard for her. But the first time that my mom let me go live with my dad was because I was getting bullied so bad in a community that I, in the middle of winter, decided I wasn't going to go to school. And I put on the warmest clothes that I could find. I had a watch because back then, we didn't have very much. We didn't have phones. We didn't whatever. I just wanted to make sure that I was home on time so I didn't get caught. And took my lunch and I ran in the bush. And I stayed there all day for a week until the school finally phoned and asked what was going on, why I wasn't at school. And I just went, and I remember sitting on this place, what they called the mountain, and that is a great big hill.
Yeah.
I would sit up there and I would just hum and sing songs to myself literally all day. And that's what I did. Like I just sat there, and that's the first time I remember writing. Like I'm sure I would write songs before that, but that's like the real time that I remember writing like the full songs all day, and just sitting out there. And yeah. And then when my mom found out, she quickly sent me to my dad because it was to the point where, you know, I didn't feel safe going to school anymore. And
How
yeah.
old were you when this was happening?
I was in grade 3 or 4. I'm not really sure how old
Mhm.
I would have been at that time. 9
You,
maybe.
you would have been 9. That's the same
Yeah.
age as my daughter.
Yeah. So
So already at that age, you were using music as a way to escape
yes,
your reality.
definitely. That's the one thing that I found, like, I could always take my music anywhere I went. It didn't matter which community, you know, that was my safe haven. And for me, it was very healing, and I needed, like, it was life saving pretty much.
Mm. Were there, I mean, that's a huge barrier. I think that,
Mm.
you know, that this was leading into my next question that I wanted to ask you was about barriers as an Indigenous artist. And um, you know, you just spoke about that and you know, the effects of bullying and how you use music to um, almost like therapy. Were there any other barriers that you remember as an Indigenous artist?
There's like so many barriers. Like I said, I've lived in places where there's no running water. Let alone how does my mom see somebody going into the music industry? You know what I mean? Like, she never said that that was an option. For most Indigenous people, they
Yeah.
don't see that as an option. And I didn't see that as an option until like 5 years ago either, you know?
Mhm.
Um,
It's almost like you're not even allowed to dream that big.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, like it's okay, you know, and it's so funny, like there's so many amazing, incredible Indigenous vocalists. Like, I used to go around and do all these competitions. Like, I started when I was like 17. And on the reserves, they have so many talent shows, and
Yeah.
it's all country. It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
funny. And there's incredible vocalists, like incredible. And yet that's as far as they go. It's like, it's really sad in a way. And because I know that they could blow the socks off of mostly everybody that's on the radio right now, you know?
Hmm.
And it's just
Yeah.
crazy. And so there's like all these barriers of like us not even, because we don't see the representation there. We don't
Yeah.
see that in the, you know, in mainstream country radio. Well, see, that's the other thing too. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, well, I didn't know that Willie Nelson was Indigenous. So is there other people out there that are like incredible country music artists um that
So Willie Nelson was Indigenous either.
yeah, he is. And so I went online, and then I also asked Dave McLeod, who is the CEO of NCI,
Yeah.
because he knows like so much
He's
Indigenous.
a walking encyclopedia.
He
Yeah.
is. So I was like, Dave, like there has to be more, you know, than just Willie Nelson. Like, who else is there? And he gave me this incredible list that I would have never thought. And I really wish that I knew more of when I was young, because that would have
Mm.
made me feel like I feel like I would have been farther than where I am right now in my career. And I would have known that it was okay for me to be here.
Because you would be able to see yourself in
Yes.
some of those artists, in
Are
some
you
of those
ready for
people.
this? You want to hear some of them?
Yeah.
Hank Williams Sr. He's an Indigenous man. He
Didn't know
is
that.
Cherokee. Of course, there's Krista Shawanda. There's Willie Nelson. Um, there is Kitty Wells. She's Cherokee.
I love Kitty Wells.
You're gonna love this one, Loretta Lynn.
I knew Loretta Lynn.
I did not. Billy Ray Cyrus, I knew of Billy Ray Cyrus. And Carrie Underwood actually has some too. And it was just like, what?
Wow.
Like, what the heck? Now, of course, those are mostly fair-skinned Indigenous people.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's probably one of the reasons why we never really knew that about them. But these are like heavy hitters, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that comes a lot from the fact that Indigenous people alone are very, we've always told our stories through song. Even
Yeah.
before, you know, before colonization and everything like that, all of our stories are in songs. And it's just incredible to think about, like, we're still here and we're still doing it, just that, you know, unfortunately I didn't know any of this till this week, and I'm going to be, you know, talking about that a lot more, I think.
Mm.
You know, obviously Crystal Shawanda was a major shift for me.
Yeah.
Like, I
Me
remember,
too.
I met
Me
her at
too.
Dolphin Fest, and I went there, and I just bawled my eyes off when I met her. I was like, I am so proud of you because, because it was more than just her. It's everybody, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and also the same thing with Shane Yellowbird. I remember seeing him on CMT, and I was like, is that an Indigenous man on CMT?
Yeah.
Like, and it was like a great moment to sit there. And I remember like, Mom, look, there's a freaking Indigenous guy, like guaranteed he is. And I went online and he was.
Yeah.
And it's just, it makes you believe in yourself a little bit more to see representation. And it's so important, I think.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about that? Like why is it so important?
I think because you want to see yourself or a version like close to you out there
Yeah.
doing it, and that's with anything, even like for radio. It would be so great to go to a radio station and see an Indigenous person there. It'd be like, hey, how's it going? Like you would
Yeah.
feel like you're at home again, right? Like
Yeah.
that. And that's another thing of belonging. It would feel like you belong. And like a lot of Indigenous people have to, like me especially, I have to remind myself that I belong here and I have a purpose here. And
Mm.
it's hard sometimes when you go into these places with, a lot of blonde hair, blue eyed people.
Mm.
So
How do you remind yourself that you belong? Like, what do you do to instill that sense of, owning your space and that sense of belonging that, you and I have gone to the CCMA week together
mhm.
multiple times. And, um, sometimes, and we've talked about this, which is why I'm bringing it up here, but sometimes we do feel like fish out of water a little bit, but at least we've got each other and we laugh around together. But how do you instill that reminder for yourself that you belong where you are?
I always try to remind myself that creator wouldn't put you anywhere that you don't deserve to be, and that um, pretty much that everything that happens is for a reason. So whether that reason is that maybe that we're the people, like you were for me, that safe haven, and if we're getting represented, that just opens up a door for, our youth, and not even just our youth, but even adults that are our age or older, to see themselves in us and to know that they can do this and that they deserve to do it. Um, yeah, it's just, I
I'm
think.
glad you brought up the youth because that's one thing that I really wanted to talk to you about because you and I have traveled a little bit in First Nation communities and we've done that music circuit and the young people in those communities do look to you as a role model and and
Weird.
and they look to me as a role model and I always kind of laughed it off like I just kind of feel like I'm like just doing my thing. I'm, a lower level emerging artist but they see you on Spotify. They see you on Apple Music. They see you putting out music videos on YouTube. How does it and in effect what that means is that you are functioning as a role model to these young people. How does that resonate with you?
Um, I'm very aware of it in my posts and how I carry myself. I try to be super hyper aware of that there's always young people watching.
Mm.
But it is very weird. Like for me
Mm.
to look at my, you know what I mean? Like from where I come from, and they don't see what I do on a day-to-day basis. So for me it's super weird, but like I it's such a hard thing to fathom, and I try not to think about it too much to the point where it gets my head too big. You know what I mean?
We
But at
wouldn't
the
let that
same
happen
time
to
being
you.
aware of it, at the same time being super aware of it, and just, I remember this one time um I went to my friend's house. A lot of my friends have older children that are my age. Like their children are, in their teen years already. And I remember going to one of my friend's place, and her son was like, Jade, you're famous, right? And it's like I'm not. And I thought that was super hilarious. But to them you are, you know,
Yeah.
and like you're doing it. And it's just, it kind of puts you in perspective of like, wow, like, okay, this is like really affecting the younger generation to see me doing these things. Like to them, I am famous, maybe. They
Mhm.
might, you know, when they get older, they might not think that way, but it's important for them to think that way when they're young.
Yeah.
So that
Because
they,
you're being that representation that you felt that you never had.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
How do you think being Indigenous impacts your art?
Oh, it's impacts it in every way, especially being an Indigenous person that follows the culture so much as I do. Um, you know, thinking about sobriety, like country
Mm.
music is about drinking songs, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of it, not all of it. There's so many good songs. Like Tennille Towns is doing so great without singing about drinking, and I love that. Um, but you know, mostly it's drinking songs, and I can't do that. Like it's just like, no, I can't bring myself to sing about that because that's not the way I live.
Hmm.
And you know, it's fine if you do, but that's just not the way that I live. So I
It's
can't,
not authentic for you.
yeah, exactly. So I can't like go around singing about a drinking song, and I don't even drink, you know, and it's just, yeah, it affects me in every way, I think. And there's
Well,
just
and you
so
mentioned earlier too about the stories
mhm.
and how, storytelling is such a huge part of our culture. And so, and you just a few years ago released a song called Worth. And that song you know, did really well, especially in the Indigenous music scene. Can you talk about that song a little bit?
Yeah, so that song, there was a lot going on in Manitoba during that time that I wrote that song. You know, it wasn't in the news or anything yet, but I knew that there was stuff going on in Pimichigamak Cree Nation with the suicide pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, even before that, like I've had five that stand out to me right now, just like thinking about it. Suicides that happened during my lifetime. I was very suicidal when I was young too. And so that song, I was just like, I was on a night shift and I was like, man, I would love to write a song about, you know, to help in any way. Like what did I need to hear when I was that age, you know, when I
Mm-hmm.
was going through that suicidal phase of my life. Um, like what did I need to hear? And I needed to hear the word worth, like you are worthy, you are worth everything. You are worth living, you know, people love you. And so the second verse of that song just like blurted out, and I wrote it down really fast. Like I said, I was on night shift. There was one other guy in here, so in the shop with me, and I had to like hum it out. That's how I write. I write really weird too because I didn't have access to, you know, guitar lessons and all that. So I write opposite than most people, from what I
Yeah.
hear. So I was like humming the melody in my head, like, and then it just like that song literally fell out of me. So in the way that I look at it is like it was like a gift. Like I was calling out to, you know, the universe, like I need a song that's gonna help my people, and then they're like, okay, here it is, and it just like
Yeah.
came out. And you know, being a country artist, I also wanted to you don't see our culture in music videos and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure that that was in part of our conversation on the video, from the video
Yeah.
side of it. And even
You wear
that,
your ribbon skirt in that video.
yes, I did.
Yeah.
And even that, like everything just fell into place. I got so much funding for that. That was just like given to me. Like it wasn't even grants. I didn't apply for grants. It was just like, I understand what you're trying to do here. This is money, you know, hopefully it
That's
helps.
incredible.
And including from the Winnipeg Police Service, they offered two of their officers, and it was just like everything, just like the Broadway Neighborhood Center. That's who actually did it. And everything just made sense. Like it just fell into place. I've never had something work so well, so easily.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and I think it's all, like I said, it's everything happens for a reason, and that song needed to come out. It was a gift for everybody, I think.
You mentioned your work. Can you tell everybody what it is that you do? Okay, wait. First of all, before you go there, Jade, you can't tell because we're on video, but Jade is like 5'0". Okay, now, so go ahead and tell everybody what it is that you do.
5'0" and I talk too much. I'm a millwright, industrial mechanic, and right now I'm working in a machine shop, and I'm learning how to machine. So I love it right now. Oh my goodness, I love it. I think this is like like in the 12 and a half years that I've done this job, this is like the best place that I've worked, and I just enjoy going to work every day. It's just great.
What does an industrial mechanic do?
Everything.
I think you've explained it to me about a dozen times, and every time I'm like, I don't really get it.
It's like a trade of we call it, like, it's like a little bits of trades, all the different trades. Like we've learned welding, we're working on machinery, so we're doing machining, and we work on pumps, we do plumbing. Like there's so many things that we do. We just like, it's like a jack of all trades, but it's just pieces of the trades. It's not like we know everything about those trades.
Yeah.
We just,
that's pretty badass though. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, I love it. There's not very many of us in where I work, like specifically, but there's like a lot of electricians, and there's like they're coming. Like there are people up and coming, and there have been before me as well. Like there's a lady that's about to retire, and I can't imagine what she had to work through, in her time, and like how many people told her that she couldn't, because she's just as small as me. It's so funny. Like there's so many little mechanics working with big men. That's great.
I want to change gears to a more serious topic. The news broke on May 28th that the remains of 215 children were found at the Kamloops Residential School. And you're a mom, you have a 2-year-old Jackson. How did that news resonate with you as an Indigenous mother?
First, it was like, we freaking told you that this was, it was like, we told you. But it's not any less heartbreaking. I think about, the people that, like my great grandmother went to residential school in Norrihouse. My father went to residential school in Dauphin. And I try not to think about what could have happened, because a lot did happen, and I'm glad that they are here and that they made it through. And then I look at my son and I'm like, I can't imagine somebody coming to take him away from me. And I think about when he was born, and thinking like, oh, I hope they don't try and take him away in the hospital, because that happens. If you say the wrong thing, or if you act a certain way, they might red flag you.
Yeah.
And I made sure my mom was always there for that reason, because she's a nurse and she's very you don't want to mess with that woman.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Thanks. That's actual compliment, because she's an incredibly strong person, and she also lived through a lot. Like they moved around all over the place, and I remember her telling me like stories about her dad making sure that they were in fancy restaurants to make sure that they knew that to tell non-Indigenous people that they belong there, and they're like kind of in your face about where they weren't really allowed to be. So for me, like that news, it seriously broke my heart, and I was so angry that entire week. I cried 4 times a day.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard, like those poor kids, and it's hard to imagine, but we have to imagine, because people need to feel what we feel, and I want non-Indigenous people to actually sit there and imagine that. Imagine your kids getting taken from you. Imagine being stressed about going to have your baby at this time, now, hoping that they don't try and red flag you and take your kid away to
Yeah.
CFS, because that does happen
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. It absolutely does.
Um, it's a,
Your little boy is young, like he's 2. At what age will you, or have you already started talking to him about residential schools and um, your family history?
I think um, right now he's not even talking.
Yeah.
So it's not that, we're just learning about life right now, and like we went to the beach yesterday and he was just like amazed. So when he's a little bit older, I'm always going to be talking about it so that it's just a normal thing for him to talk about, and he's not afraid to talk about those things in away from the home, and
Mhm.
like if he's in school and a topic comes up, and I want him to correct them if it's wrong, if they're
Mhm.
teaching the wrong history about it, because they try and um like right now, like they try to act like there was nothing wrong with residential school.
Mhm.
I seen a thing on Facebook recently where this kid came home with homework to talk about the benefits of residential school.
Mhm.
Like that's so disgusting.
Yeah.
um so I want him to be able to stand there and be like, no, this is not right, and I want him to know that I will back him on that in every single way. um and he's gonna have a different life than I did because of I call him my golden boy. Me and Sean have brown hair, brown eyes, and we uh have a little tiny golden boy that just came out with like hazel eyes. He had blue eyes when he was born, and they're hazel now, and very, very light hair.
He's so
So
cute.
it's gonna be like so weird to see him grow up, because it's gonna be way different. Like he's gonna have so many, um, such a different life than what I did.
Mhm. That's pretty powerful. I think that there's a generation of us who are giving that to our children. We've done enough of the work, I think, that our kids are going to have a much I think it's safe to say a much easier time.
Yes, I think so too. And my son's gonna be the first one in my family to grow up in ceremony. I didn't
Mm,
find ceremony till about 2014. um well into my 20s, and I was always lost with it, like before that time. So he's got that privilege of growing up, going to ceremonies, going to Sundance. I smudge my house every week, and I never had that, and he's just going to grow up in a very beautiful, beautiful community of Indigenous people.
can you talk about Sundance at all?
In which way? Like what do
Like
you
just generally, I know that there's things that you can't speak to when you talk about ceremony, but just generally for the broader community that's watching.
Okay. A Sundance is a ceremony. It's usually 4 days of fasting, and then we also it's prayer. So basically, what what I was taught was we only have ourselves to give to Creator, and to ask for things. So if you're praying for someone that's sick, you give yourself to that prayer.
Mm,
Um, in exchange for that to happen, you know what I mean? Like that's the only thing that we have to give, because they don't care about clothes, they don't care about money, they care about you and your body, and that's it. So to sacrifice yourself for those 4 days for whatever you're praying for the whole entire year is kind of why we do it. And then it's very healing. It's and like I used to hear about it, so that's the thing. Like my mom used to go to the Sundance ceremony, and I was like, oh yeah, whatever. Like I was like, just whatever. Like it didn't sink in what it was.
yeah.
And I was still busy drinking, and I was still, out partying all the time. And usually during Sundance, I was in school for my millwright program. It's for 4 years. And I was always in school during that time. And I just didn't it just didn't resonate with me at all. Like, okay, sure, have fun, like going
Yeah.
camping.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my cousin was murdered, and he was a sun dancer. And so our whole entire family, after that happened, we kind of came together and went there to on behalf of him, I guess. And we had a giveaway, and a giveaway is we prepare like a whole bunch of items and we give them to like everybody on behalf of that person. And because they're supposed to dance for 4 years straight. And it was so it was his second year when I went there, and I was like, this is what I've been missing. Like, this is crazy in the best way. um
Mm.
it was so, like, I can't even explain that feeling of being there, but I've never felt so um what is the word I'm looking for? So at peace, I guess. And so I want to say
Connected.
enlightened, but yeah, like just connected. Like I just felt it was an incredible feeling. And I was just like, wow, like this is what I've been missing this entire time. And it was from that time I kind of helped myself, and I started slowly getting sober from there. Like I didn't get sober right away, obviously. And um I went from drinking every single weekend to I haven't had any alcohol for about almost 6 years now.
Mm.
So it's just an incredible experience. I can't explain ceremony. It's just something that you have to live, to be honest. Like it's just absolutely incredible.
It
That's
sounds almost like you went home, like
Yes.
you found your home.
Yes. And that's
Uh-huh.
basically when I started feeling like I was, whole again, because I was so
Mm.
lost for so long. From like I said, from like suicide, and then getting lost in the vices, and it's just like, oh, I just felt I feel like now, like I'm just so at peace, except for, when news like that comes out of like the
Yeah.
250, then I get bothered again. But I'm learning to sit with my emotions as well, and let
Hmm.
those tears come out. Before I would just be like, pushing them aside, they would build up, build up, build up. And yeah, it's just, you know ceremony is incredible.
I want to ask you about your song Hangover Blues.
Yes.
You played this song for me for the first time, I think, in 2018, maybe 2019, when we were at CCMAs. And a lot of people, when you're starting to work on new music, don't realize that this is a process that takes a long time. So you've had this song for years before you ever released it.
Yes.
And now it has over 100,000 streams on Spotify. Like, that's insane.
That's it. That it is, and I'm really scared because like I'm putting a new single out soon. And I'm like, what if it doesn't do that? just, just. I think that song also resonated because it's very bluesy, and then it's also like I gave everything I could to those vocals. So
If
that song.
you guys at home are listening and you haven't heard this song, go to Jade's Spotify account and listen to it, or buy it, download it. And wait till the end. Like that chorus, when you go way up, I'm like, oh my God.
Thank you.
Like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
And she's like 5 foot nothing.
That's so funny.
Where does that sound come from?
I used to belt. I'm actually more comfortable belting than I am singing, just like normally. It's so funny because like for some reason I can't write songs that have that give me the ability to belt. And that song, I was like, oh, this is a belter. I'm finally gonna write the song that's like I can kill it on this one. But I used to sing, Celine Dion when I was a kid. My poor mom and dad. They they would have like I would blast, like it would be so loud in my room listening to like all these different artists, and I would just sing my heart out, like belting out. And I just felt like I said, that was my therapy. So just getting all those emotions out, I guess it was just like, wow. you know. So when I got this song and I was like, I could do this. So I had to like try to figure it out in my head. I actually wrote it right here, sitting right there. In my sunroom. And I was like, yes, finally I have one of these songs that I could showcase like all of my as much as I can, I guess, in my vocals.
Yeah.
It's not like that for every song, and like I obviously sing my heart out for every song, but not to that extent, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. You get to go a bit wild at the end.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
so great. Like I remember I was like in the studio, and you know you're usually standing there and the mic's in front of you and you have to
Yeah.
like whatever. I was like, no, and I took the mic off, and I was like, Murray, I have to do this. And he's like, go ahead, Jade, it's all good.
Jaimo Murray Pulver, who produced the track.
Yeah. I was like, I have to hold it. So, and he actually would rent specific mics just for me after that, so that I could pull it off. And then it doesn't have
I
to
love
just
that.
He's like, you go for it, you go for it. And then he was like so proud. I remember him like being, oh, it's so good to see artists finally come into their voice. And it's like he was like so proud. It was like a big brother proud. He's so great. So yeah, I like pulled the mic off the stand and I just gave it my all. Like I was sweating after that because it's like a little room and it was hot.
Yeah. What, you mentioned that you have another song coming out. What is next for Jade Turner?
I do. I have another song. It's called Somehow Someone. And it's like, I went through like this long period of not being able to write. And I was exhausted from having my son. And I was sitting on my couch and I was like, oh, I just wish I could write a song for once. Like I was just tired, but I didn't
wallowing in your self-pity.
Yeah. Like, this sucks. I haven't written in so many years. And like, I just like, oh, this is like so horrible. And then, I don't know what actually brought up this song, but like I said, I think it's just like me putting it out in the universe and being like, I need a song. Give me a song, somebody. And I started writing this song, and it's about like you know, there's Maren Morris has one, there's a song for everything. And that's what this song represents for me. You know, there's always a song out there for whatever you're feeling. And I it's called Somehow Someone, and I just love it, and it's such a good happy song. It's a feel good song, and I'm so proud of it. And it comes out June 14th. And yeah, and then I have my EP finally coming out in fall, and I've been putting off that EP for since before Jackson was born. Like I was going to release all these songs, and then I found out I was pregnant, and then I got put on very light duties cuz I almost lost my son, and then I just sat there for a while, and then I had really bad postpartum depression. So that was crazy. And
Yeah.
then COVID hit. So it's like, oh my goodness, like I'm never going to release this, and it's finally happening, and I'm just like so relieved to start to release it all, and then to start working on other stuff too. Like it's been a while. A long time
Yeah.
coming.
The perfect storm of like reason to delay music, but now it's here and it's coming.
Yeah.
And I know that there are going to be a lot of people that watch this and are going to go and want to listen to your music because you've got an incredible story. And I'm just so proud to call you my friend. And I love you. And thank you for taking the time to sit with us and chat with us and allow us the privilege of getting to know you a bit better.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say that I'm very, very incredibly proud of you as well. And thank you to CCMAs for allowing us to use their platforms and giving us our voice basically in the Canadian country music scene, because it's very important work.
Thank you. Check out Somehow Someone, June 14th by Jade Turner.